Okay. Uh, as you know, we talked about the security aspect yesterday about the couple of concepts, which are like SaaS, DAST, IAST, which we will be using in our CI/CD for automation and integrating with the existing pipeline. That's what we have talked about. Now, what we talk about is that the security framework components. It does not necessarily need to know as a DevSecOps person. It does not necessary to know all this, but still you should have an idea about it. That's the aim of it. Okay, these are very important for a guy of an IT operations team, exclusively or for an IT operations team. It is very important to know what are the security standards and framework they are following it. That's why it's an important. But as I told you, right, it's as a DevSecOps person, you don't need to worry about it. As if you are from IT operations or you are a head or manager of that IT operations, then you would definitely need to know, because some companies will go for an accreditations or certifications. Okay, for example, uh, you have a product and you have a company, right? And to make sure you are compliance or you are aligned with the data compliance, data policies, and data issues along, in a domestically and internationally, you need to get a certified. For example, you have a let's think about in a general view, like uh, what do you say, a general view, like you have some product, you want to sell it, right? What you need to get ISO certification, right? Because that ISIS, maybe I forgot that name. That certificate you should have it. Then only your product is validated by others, right? Because they would be trust. Okay, this is a ISO hallmark, so we should buy. We can trust it. They can think and then feel. Similarly, when you have a product in your digital market, in a digital world, if you have a product and you want to uh, trust that product by others or by customers, you should go with some security standard certifications. Okay, so for that, what kind of standards and framework they would be filing is, there are a lot of standards. They will adopt one standard, and for that, once you adapt that standard, what they would do, they'll provide you a couple of steps. Okay, first you should have an organization physically and digitally been registered with the local authority and international authorities. Then you should have an employees, and your employees will have a badging, and each employee will have a badging. Apart from that, you should follow the some physical security features enablement, and you should follow the some of the office procedural on a rotational basis. Something there are a lot of steps. Like if you go to the MNC company, they have a lot of structures, right? The same thing they would be defining in their standards and framework. So everyone would follow about that. Okay, and one more thing is, they enforce you. Let me show you here. Yeah, for example, here, if you see here, HIPAA, FNRI, GDPR, ISO 2700, PCI, DSS, these are all some standards. Okay, it's like a certification. You are going to get a certification from these standardized framework authorities. These are some of the organizations. They would provide you, okay, we are going to give you this certification of ISO 27001, and then you can be trusted, because once they have given a certifications, you would be publishing this information on your site or you would announce it basically. Okay, my company is certified by this ISO 27001, and here is a license. You please go ahead and check it. Why they do follow is basically, uh, what they do is they'll regularize your standards and frameworks, like all the information security and cyber security related concepts. They will enable you in your organizations with in the form of a regulations. Okay, so like they will give you, they'll come for an inspection. Okay, and they will audit your entire organization in terms of physically and digitally. So that's how they will understand, okay, you are following all these standards whatever we have provided, so you should be, you are enough to get this one. If not, what they do is they will suggest you. Okay, for example, we can't go directly to the ISO. This guy is a standard, and then give me instructions, we will follow, and then we will please allow us get this certificate. It's not like a straightforward. First we have to consult one third party guy, and that guy will guide us on all the stuff, and he is the, it's like, if we want to get a license from an RTA, right? There is a lot of process, right? Similarly, if we want to get this kind of an accreditation or ISO certification, there is a lot of things would be coming here. Okay, and why? And basically, these why we should have a regulations, because basically why we need to have these frameworks and standards is because every organization should comply with the data policies. For example, right, no one should use the public data, you know, misuses. Some people would be using misuse. Of course, it's happening now, but without knowing about that, it's already happening it out. So, in order to make sure that kind of an issues shouldn't be happen, officially they were been enforcing these kind of a frameworks or certification should have follow this. Okay, otherwise, right? We can't trust the data. We can't trust those kind of a products from a couple of organizations. For example, let me show you AWS security standard here. What kind of see, their IT infrastructure and AWS entire provides these kind of certification. SOC 1, SOC 2, 3, FSA, DIACP, FedRAM, PCI-DSS level 1, ISO 9001, ISO this one. So these are the standard frameworks they AWS has been following it. They do not have a HIPAA. HIPAA is kind of a regular compliance details from an US perspective. Okay, now this is a major standard framework or standard certification is coming to the outer world. Right, in India we have a less kind of a protection in terms of a data digitally. Okay, if you understand, if you observed, I think a few months back we got a data protection bill from our parliament, right? So we got somewhat boost up our data. We got some controller on our data. For example, if we install any of the application, what we are getting is we are getting a notification saying that you are accessing this data, or it will ask you, right? Like, I need a contacts of this, I need a phone calls data, I need a camera access, I need a GPS access, something. Once you allowed, then only app should be functional, right? For example, now whoever is accessing the data, they should have a regular compliance audit checks for every. For example, you have the you install a phone pay, and while starting a phone pay, it might ask you, for example, what do you say, it might ask you your personal information, especially your Gmail account ID, and your drive details, your PAN number. It does not require of all this data. It just required your phone number and PAN number if at all. Otherwise, some kind of a other data. This is the data. This is required for a functioning phone pay. But if it is asking any extra data, right, then these PhonePe developer guys or PhonePe organizations have to submit a detailed request why they are asking for an extra data and what they are doing with that. This is went through officially. So this is how, I mean, this is one of the sample example, and a few more data complaints. I mean, a few more laws got changed for hacking devices. There is a lot got changed in the data protection bill in the recently. So it was a US, right? It's already been presented. So for, I mean, in a simple terms, in order to make a control on the data distributions, that's why these kind of a, and how much secure your product, how much secure of your infrastructure, either it could be digitally or physically, and how much trust of your product, like in terms of once I put my data in your application, how the data flow is happening, how are you selling it, are you intimating us, these kind of data information they would be providing here. So because it is being used by the public, okay, that's why these kind of a standards are required in order to function any product of digitally, okay. And now these as I mentioned you, right, uh, and even every IT team, I mean every organization should follow this, especially when they, I mean, as far as I know, most of the startups won't go for this because they are not ready to do go in that particular state, because it is a costly also, right? That's why they would be um, I mean, they won't go for. When they do go, if they want to go for an international markets, and if their product is mature enough to get such kind of clients all over world, so then they'll start going for that. For example, it's, I mean, one thing is, most of the whoever is going from mid company to MNC companies, this is one of the indication. If they are following some accreditation or certification, they are starting doing migrating from medium sized company to do the or startup to MNC kind of things. So this is one thing, okay. uh, this is another part. And for example, as I mentioned you right here, ISO 2700 or 27000, and even if you go to the Flipkart, the HIPAA compliance, do they have, yeah, they have given information. See, they received a PCI DSS certificate compliance of 2.0 from CISA. These guys are an organization who has provided this certification of this version. So they would tell you why exactly they went and everything, and they will get to know. And even if we click on and then see Flipkart, and then let's go to the privacy. Yeah, see here they have the thing, compliance. Yeah, if they have anything, so every organization will do their say, yeah. So basically, how they do collect your information, what they are doing it, and how they were been using basically on a profile data totally, how they would be working on it, how they are selling it, everything they have given here, okay. So if we still have any issues, right, we can contact to them. And this process, whatever they publish the process, right, this process is also evaluated by the This is the standard framework, guys, and they will suggest, okay, you shouldn't do this. Okay, this way is good. You have to follow of all this, right? So these are the some of the things they would be following it. Okay. Now let's talk about a couple of standard frameworks here. As I mentioned here, right? These are the completely IT security standards exclusively for the data compliance standard. I mean, data compliance and privacy. This is the main part of the theme of it, and how organization is functioning. This is what it is. And for example, if you take, there is a one thing called ISO 2007 series. Okay, I mean 27,000 series. So this is like they have a bunch of certifications. This is was basically, I mean, there are a lot of series. For example, I mean, IS 27001, I think 02. I think before that 270018 to 7 series they have done in terms of 3 7. So there is a lot of series they have been published in the, I mean, announced for their certifications and all. We have to choose which one we would be suiting for. Why they have published these many certificates or these many standard frameworks is, it's up to, these are domain specific. For example, you are into the public data and then you are into e-commerce, right? You are into e-commerce industry and you are dealing with the public data, then you should be going for this one, like how AWS is doing it. If you are in healthcare domain, there might be something like this, you have to follow this. You are into the internet services, okay, you have to follow this. So based on their domain, they have to find their frameworks and all the stuff here. Okay. And basically, this all certifications is developed by the international organization standard, which is nothing but a IOS, International Organization Standardizations. They would be developed. I mean, these all these certificates is developed by these guys, and what they do is they are very flexible in terms of the information security framework. They can be applied all kinds of sizes of an organization, as I mentioned, right? For to make sure all these certifications should be suitable by the all kinds of an organization. All kinds means startup, medium based, mid size, and MNCs. They have all kinds of things they do having it. Okay. And majorly, as I mentioned you, right, 2700 has been focusing on the cloud computing. Okay. Exclusively, for example, AWS, not Amazon, right? It's an AWS or GCP or Azure. Whoever want to publish their cloud computing solution or products, they should be following this. Another one is 2700 and 31. This provides IT DR programs and related activities. Okay, like DR means disaster recovery. For example, um, I'll tell you an example also here. Disaster recovery means, for example, you have developed an application which will have a one database server, one application server, and their infrastructure. For example, if you hosted in any of the AWS or I mean, AWS will have a disaster recovery program, but if you are going without that, what will happen is, even if something happened at one place, it won't affect your infrastructure. It will have, or it will have a backup in another region. For example, I think 6 years or 5 years back, we got a floods in Chennai, right? The entire most of the Chennai area got drowned in the waters, and most of the IT companies, not even IT companies, every shop and even most of the IT corridor got blocked because of the water coming to the different transport. I mean, electricity area, entire electricity got shut down. In Chennai, there are a few small set of data centers also got shut up. Because of that, data centers got shut down. The application accessibility is already completely down. So even internet's also, there is no internet for almost a 1.5 day there because of the floods they got in the Chennai area. So even such kind of scenarios, if just think about it. Now we are storing our data in I think US Bay Area. I mean, there are some data centers in the Bay Area also, right? So if that got shut down or if that have any issues, right, uh, we will lose our application. In order to make, in order to, we will be in a safe zone. What they do is they will have a disaster recovery plan, meaning whenever the data has been collected in particular, it will automatically take a backup in another region. Okay, so these kind of things called the disaster recovery plans. Okay, so they have an information, even if something goes down, we will can recover immediately, and then even we'll have a backup plan. That is the main of it. If whoever want to go for these kind of related products, they'll go for the 2701. And if you have a uh, if you are compliance with this one, right, they'll go for the 37 certificate. I mean 27037 certificate, which is especially for the data privacy and usage, basically. So this is what they would be following it. If I mean if you are dealing with, okay, and even sometimes you might have observed some companies will find a sue also, meaning in terms of for example, I think you might have recently watched the videos. Mark Zuckerberg is attending some martial courts cases, and they were asked the questions: "Are you compliance with our data policy?" He said yes. Okay, show me the certifications. They will show that, and then they will start asking a question: How do you handle our data? How do you know our data? How do you publish it? How do you sell our data? How much you are earning? So all these kind of questions. Before asking all these questions, they will first validate whether are you compliant with the, are you compliant with any of our data policy or not. Okay, this is one thing by the ISO. Another one is NIST. Okay, NIST SP. Okay, NIST is also basically one of the standards, and which was very old basically. Okay, this is they'll have an extensive libraries, basically, I mean an extensive libraries they'll have uh, for a IT standard certifications. Okay, IT standard certifications and all. Okay, so I mean, all these have, I mean, they'll have some published like NIST, SP, NIST, 8000, NIST. I mean, they all also have a series like this. NIST, 800003. Okay. So this kind of not three, it's just 53. Okay, and even 171, so they have a lot of certifications like this. Okay, so and even there are some organizations with NIST, CSF. These are all the frameworks. It's up to you. For example, in a market there are a lot of standards, right? Similarly, in a digital also we do have a different kinds of framework. So you just need to understand, even if you want, you go to any website and then check their compliance details, what kind of a security standards they are having it. Okay, so then you will understand whether they have not or something. If you are in an organization which does not have a security certification, you'll get to know all this information when they are filing for a audit or when they are filing for the um, security standards and all here. So this is the main thing which I want to talk about in our data security standard and framework. And even if you go to this, yeah, they will basically prioritize of all these stuffs here, which one they want and which category they will fall, and NIST or is it good for IM. It's up to the company's decision which organization they want to choose. But among them, if you choose NIST cybersecurity framework, they have a separate standards and certifications. They'll go for that. That's how it will work. Okay. I hope this is clear. I mean, okay, if you ask me, sir, how much is an importance as a DevSecOps person? It's not, it's not, I could say, you won't work on this for sure. But as a DevSecOps person, in interviews, I have seen a lot of people ask me questions. What is a security framework? What are the standards? Why do they need? What else they want? Can you tell me some certification names? These kind of a questions, I'll definitely get it, because I mean, I've seen this. That's why I included this. So you just need to understand what this compliance, what are the standard, how do we get, and what purpose. Just basic details is are enough. You don't need to go in depth like how they do and all the stuff. Okay, because IT operations team will be main responsible for this kind of certificates and all. Okay, so that's it, guys, for security frameworks and all. Okay, now let's talk about the ELK and Splunk. Okay, so these are all monitoring tools or observation tools. You might have heard about the DevSecOps, SRE, Site Reliability Engineer, Site Observability Engineer, Site Observability Team, right? So what their purpose is, or what their exact work on every day is, observation or the reliability of the system they would be working on it. How do they know reliability of a particular system or particular tool? By monitoring the logs. Based on the logs, you will understand what it is going to be doing it. For example, I'll tell you an example here. You are working in some e-commerce company, okay? And in e-commerce company, the sales are not I mean, the sales of that particular e-commerce company is not easy. It will be peak in festival seasons, like we are getting a peak, right? I mean, uh, we are getting a peak season now. So in a Christmas or year end, we'll be getting a peak statements. So now this is what we know from outside of a product side. Now imagine you are inside an AWS and you are working for either Flipkart or AWS, and then you are inside of it, and you are working as a SRE or DevSecOps person. Your manager would have tell you, "Hey Kiran, so please get the logs of last 10 years data of September, October, November, December, or October, November, December, last 3 months of the data, and then see what is the log performance, what is the performance of our infrastructure, are there any abnormalities, or are there any issues, how did we fix." They'll ask us last year data, and then see, and then based on that they will estimate or they will predict, okay, this year also we are going to get a some kind of an issues because of the peak hours are this, and in this peak hours our RAM utilization is hit more than 95%. We should be enough to accommodate the extra CPU usage also, and uh, we hit almost you know uh, data storage is always high, and we should have a disaster recovery plan. All these kinds of information they would be getting from by understanding or by observing the logs itself. So that's how it will work. Okay, for that, how they do, what they do is they will feed their entire logs into a particular tool. That tool is nothing but a either ELK or Splunk. What does it mean by here is that, but there is a difference here. ELK is for the log aggregation tool, and Splunk is also log aggregation tool, but exclusively for the security monitoring purpose. There is a some team called a security team in your organizations, right? They have a SOC role. SOC means security operations control tool. Okay, what they do is they will keep on observing all the logs related to the security. For every tool that you install, it will have a security configuration, and it will have a separate security logs also. They will redirect those logs to this Splunk or ELK. I'll show you what it is now here. Okay, basically ELK stands for Elastic Logstash and Kibana. Okay, what does it mean is, if you ask me, here, see the architecture. Elastic, E for Elastic, L for Logstash, and K for Kibana. Okay. Now this is a setup, and you have a servers. Server 1, server 2, server 3. That server can be web server, database server, or application server, or Kafka server, or any servers. For example, if your architecture has 5 or 6 servers, what you need to do is you would be you would what you do is, for every server will have a logs, right? What you would be doing is, you will configure, or you will create a one kind of a file or configuration on these servers. That server, what does it will do is, it will check the logs, I mean it will gather the logs from that, and then forward it to the log stash. Okay, from the log stash it will go to the Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch from this UI. UI is for the, I mean, I'll tell you what I did not tell you the role of this, right? Elastic is basically the logic applier. Logstash is a logs collector, meaning it will get all the logs from a different servers and then keep it in one place. And then Elastic is kind of a search engine. Search engine means it will logically apply couple of formulas on the data which was sit on the Logstash, and then at the end, after applying logs, we'll get an output, right? To understand that output, we should have some UI. That UI was nothing but a Kibana here. So basically, Elasticsearch is a search engine which will search in the logs, and Logstash is a log aggregator. It will feed, it will get the logs, and then understand, and then divide the logs, and then ultimately we present that logs into the UI. UI is nothing but a Kibana. Now there are a lot of things here, meaning we have to feed that kind of data. If you see here, meaning we have to install all these stuffs here: Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, and then we have to feed that. Okay, so if we want to see these steps, right, first what he has done is he has updated, then he is installing the ELK, and he's just mentioning Java should be presented by the Elasticsearch and log. So he just installed the Java in it, and then he installed the nginx to feed or to generate the data. In this example we just talked about, right, we should have some kind of a server. This server can be self-hosted server, or it is from another server, but in among these servers we should have either it could be database server or web server or application server, right? In this example, this guy has taken web server. That web server is nothing but a nginx. He's just showing how to install this nginx server, and it is up and everything is fine. Now he is just installing Elasticsearch, and then he verifying it in Elasticsearch, and then this is how after installation of the Elasticsearch. And if you see here, these are the configuration files of Elasticsearch here. And later on, he is configuring something in Elasticsearch. See, network host. he is changing localhost. If the application is from another server, you have to mention the IP address of that particular instead of a localhost here. Okay. So once he has done those changes, he is just restarting the server and making sure this is working and fine. Now what he is doing is he is installing the Kibana. Kibana is the another tool for UI. Okay. And it is also access. I mean, you also need to change the IP address from IP address to localhost. Either you can mention localhost or you need to mention the IP address of any particular server here. And then he started applying this. He started applying the changes on our web server. In the web server, he's just creating it and then finally restarting it. And then here, if you see here, he is adding couple of things here. So this is the way where the Kibana looks like. In the Kibana, we will be getting a logs from a Nginx server using a Elasticsearch. Okay, so this is how they have implemented ELK. I mean, not implemented. They have configured the ELK with the Nginx server here. Okay. Now, once you have Nginx as configured and ELK is configured, you have to configure the metrics. Metrics means, okay, now you have configured the ELK setup. Now in this ELK setup, you have integrated with your Nginx web server. In the Nginx web server, what exactly you want to find out? Like it's a metric. What metrics you want? Do you want a CPU usage or do you want a web user access? Do you want statistics of the CPU or memory, or you have to tell what kind of a metrics you want. That this guy has just shown here. I'll just show you here. What is that? For that, he has installed metric beat. Metric beat is a kind of a settings that you have to do it in your system where you want to monitor. In the metric beat, what he has done is CPU, load, memory, network, process summary, socket summary, everything they are feeding it to that. Meaning, as I mentioned here, right? From this server, they are getting a metrics by installing a metrics plugin on the Kibana. So it will get the data from this server that the data is nothing but a metrics. That metrics are nothing but a whatever he has configured, like CPU, memory usage and all, right? I'll just show you what they have configured here. Yeah, CPU, load, memory, network, processes, process summary, socket summary, right? So these are all going to feed to the Logstash, and Logstash will forward to the Elasticsearch, where it will help us to search different logs, and then finally it will display on the Kibana. That is what it is just shown here. In the dashboard, if you see here system metrics, you would find all the information here. And finally, this is how the data has been represented in the dashboard here. If you see here, beat name this virtual box or the particular mission name. So this is how it will be just displayed. This is how we would be configuring the ELK setup and everyone. So sometimes most of the things will be done by the DevOps or SRE team. If there is an SRE team, those are the guys who would be doing all these works. If there is no SRE team, they will might ask you means so they might ask the DevOps team to configure all this stuff and then work on this. What they do is they'll integrate their database server, all the prod related configuration, prod related servers to this ELK setup, and then and then keep on monitoring what is happening. So they'll have alerts, right? For every 85 alerts team, they are getting all the stuff here. I mean, for every 85 spikes, their team will get respond. What happened? Why the spike has happened? what is the reason and what is the query, and will it fail or what is that, and how do we mitigate in the future. Sometimes, right, if the developer don't write a optimized query, that optimized query is the most highest CPU consumed process in your database server. I mean in RDS server. Okay. That will stop like anything. I mean that will stop like pre another next coming queries, and finally application will be slow. Finally it will report to you, saying that report to you means one of the manager will report our system is very slow, please observe this, please debug this, please troubleshoot this. So all these kind of things would be happening. Okay, so that's how the entire work. Now in a similar fashion, since we talked about the ELK, right, in the same thing, what is another tool that we ask? Splunk, which does not have an internal three different components, but it is entirely together. But instead of it is focusing on the beatings like a CPU, statistics, memory, and all the right, they will be focusing on the authentication and authorization related. I'll just show you this also here. If you want, we can follow this as very simply steps, but I never tried this. But there are a lot of other things are there. They have extensive steps and very detailed also. But as an simple, this is a good actually. Okay. And now let's talk about the ELK. Sorry, we just talked about the ELK, right? I want to talk about the Splunk related. Okay. Splunk is also mainly for monitoring purpose, but exclusively for the security related. Okay. Let me come back here. Okay. Splunk. See here, you would tell the variety of the systems. In the variety of the systems, they would be focusing on the security aspect. Okay. The one which I have experienced till now in the 10 years, right? Most of the companies would use the Splunk for monitoring, observability, and the security. And if there is any separate security team, they will prefer go with this Splunk instead of going with the ELK, because it is giving you the security aspects also. That is what the security team will refer that. Okay. And yeah, let's go with this guy. So let's see what he is telling. Yeah, here. See this. This is a components of a Splunk. Okay. These are the components basically. Actually, we don't internally install separately like ELK. In ELK, we have installed Elasticsearch separately, Logstash separately, Kibana separately, and everything separately, right? And then we talked about, we integrated all this. But in case of Splunk, right, we don't install this. I mean, we don't need to install all these components individually. We just need to, we'll get some binaries of the Splunk and then we will extract it. That's it. And we don't do that. Now, if you ask me the architecture or the internal communications, right, or components, there are majorly three parts. One here, the underbase and middleware. Middleware is nothing but the configuration of the Splunk, and third one is the user interface where the user will be interacting for this purpose. Okay, in the underneath the ground, in the ground or the basic configuration, what you do is the logs and metrics and traces. Once you install the Splunk, as we mentioned in the ELK configurations, right? We have configured all the stuff. I mean, all the ELK setup and everything, right? So similarly, we will also configure the Splunk related settings on a server machine, especially to get the logs, okay? To get the data about it. And that could be on premises or clouds also, or it could be applications also, or it can be from a third party also, or it can be completely separate ecosystem also. So it can be anything. I mean, you can you can get the metrics or the logs or all the information from any of these servers. It could be public cloud or private cloud or applications or database servers or third party. You can get all the information from this, and then it will apply some couple of tools that is nothing but a indexing. In the database we do have something called index, right? What does it do? It will arrange everything in indexed order, right? Similarly, it will properly index it, which is nothing but based on the configuration that we give in UI, and then we talk about it. So it has some index search engine, which exactly like Elasticsearch, and some kind of an orchestration. Orchestration means what Logstash is doing. Logstash is an aggregator, right? It is applying some kind of a logic after gathering the logs. Similarly, this is what will be happening. Okay, uh, these are the basic components of it. Okay, I mean, why I'm comparing with the ELK is ELK is very straightforward with the in terms of individual maintenance and properties, right? I'm trying to align all these with the ELK. That's why it was been like this. Now, if you ask me the flow or the functionality of it, yeah, I mean, this is a high level, right? Yeah, this is a kind of a very complex thing, but as in simple terms, as I mentioned, right? Indexes, search engines, and then forwarders. Forwarders is where we will be configuring. Configuring means, for example, as we mentioned here, right? Server 1, server 2, server 3. In each server, there are some configurations files we have to create related to the Splunk. Splunk, it is nothing but you are telling to the Splunk saying that, okay, there are some logs under the location of OPT, OPT slash SonarQube slash or MySQL or any of the tools, right? You need to tell what logs it has to forward in this forwarders. And then it start forwarding to the Splunk instance. In the Splunk instance, there is something called index. What does it do is indexers would be analyze the data and then put it in a indexed format, which is nothing but a proper indexing, like what is happening in the database. Why? Because for easy process, for easy analyze and easy display, which is in the UI part, once the indexing is happened, it will intimate to the search engine saying that I have indexed, these are the indexes and keys. Then head will display the same thing on the uh, Splunk UI, Splunk UI, where we will be operating it. I mean, we will be operating it, and then we will select all the queries, what kind of data you want to display, and when to that, what server, and everything you would be defining under the management console. This is how it will work. Okay. The best thing is I'm looking for one diagram which was kind of a very yeah, I think somewhat this is fine, but it will have a repeated all the stuff here. So indexer and search header, that's it. Nothing else apart them. I mean, forwarders. You don't need to worry about it. Yeah, I think this is one. And if you want to install this, right? Okay. Yeah, as usual. So it is basically you will get the Splunk binary. You just extract it and then get it back. But this is what these guys are doing. What they are doing is they are installing the RPM package. Okay, not a dbin or something. Once installed, we'll get all the binaries installed in our machine. I don't know why these guys are doing. Okay, anyway. They have given a deb files also. It's like straightforward, like install that deb file, that's it, nothing else. And we have to majorly focusing on the indexing and forwarding integration parts, that's it. I'll also forward this you guys, and if anything that would also we can try. Okay, and that's it for today's guys. Please let me know if you have any questions. But the major thing is tomorrow is going to be last class, that we will be dealing on the anchor and nexus. This is what we are going to do it. Okay, tomorrow we are going to talk about all this. Probably I would be preferably morning. We may talk about I mean, I'm thinking let's have instead of having, I mean, some more time. It will take some more time. Not about this. We can talk all the things together. So if you have even any questions, also you can ask in the tomorrow's session, because tomorrow is going to be the last session. We would be discussing about it, right? Let's spend our plan for 8:30 from 7:30. Or I mean, let's plan for that. So if you have any questions, we can discuss also. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you. Hey, Kiran, if
Yeah,
you have
Naren.
any questions.